Julianna Pena has come out, says that she would like the rubber match with Amanda. I'm open to that, guys. I'm open to that. Let's back up. Amanda goes down, biggest upset in the organization's history. That's the way the story is currently being told. Now, of course, that's a short-term memory. Matt Serra over George St. Pierre. You understand the point. Okay. Great big upset. What happened? Why did Amanda lose that fight? Now, Amanda was very quick with the excuses. I mean, COVID was going on, and there was this bad knee, so she couldn't train, and her own gym, I got to leave them. I can't trust them. They didn't have me prepared. I mean, there was a lot of things. I don't begrudge Amanda for excuses, by the way. Excuses and reasons, there's a very fine line. And you've got to find something that you truly believe was the cause, and Amanda did. I don't begrudge as I tell you she had excuses, but she laid them out. And if you really do believe that your gym was the cause, the training preparation that you got, you owe it to yourself to go do something different. That's what she did. I compliment all of those things. She identified something. She made the changes. Now, let's look at part two, okay? Because problem with part one, regardless of the preparation, is Amanda found herself with an opponent that was a lot more difficult than she knew. But let's take a look at part two, because I'm not sure that exact same thing didn't just happen in reverse. Julianna knew what it was going to take to beat Amanda. She knew she was going to have to weather a storm, which no other girl has been able to do. She knew that first punch was going to be the absolute hardest punch. She knew that first round was going to be the absolute hardest round. What she didn't know is that Amanda could duplicate that round, that she made the necessary adjustments in training. Well, we all found out. I told you there's a very fine line between excuse and reason. But a rematch reveals which it is. That is an excuse COVID was going on. That is an excuse that my knee hurt. That is an excuse that Kayla Harrison has taken attention off me. Well, no, not so fast. If you leave that, go do the same thing, and get an opposite result, it turned into a reason. It's very important that you know that. The fact that Amanda was able to go out and fight as well as Amanda was able to fight, not to mention, Amanda did two things that nobody's seen. When you want to compliment Amanda, make sure you acknowledge and that you observe two things that she did that nobody's discussing. First off, Amanda got on top repeatedly. All the girls in the division, all the trainers and coaches, at 145 and 135, and everybody that's ever thought and dreamed about bringing down the Lioness, never knew they were going to have to deal with ground and pound. They never knew that. This is a whole new addition to the fear that you have of the skills of Amanda Nunes. Second thing Amanda did, and they fought twice now, Amanda has never been on bottom. Julianna wanted to get on top in both fights. Don't think you have to remind me how the second fight ended. You don't have to talk about top, bottom. One person's in guard, they're taken down, they're held, you're pushing them in the fence, you're trying to find some elbows. One of these situations, number one spot Julianna wanted to get to, two opportunities to do it, two different fights, 6.5 rounds in total, never got there once. That's not an insult to Julianna. Julianna was doing everything right. It's a compliment to Amanda. Amanda's wrestling ability, offensively and defensively, was on point, but it also revealed something we didn't know. So now, I feel, perhaps, Julianna found herself in a situation that was harder than she knew it was going to be. I don't think any of us believed that Amanda would be winning the 4th and 5th rounds, that Amanda would be getting takedowns and using control from the top to win those rounds, that Amanda would be pushing the pace. Amanda came out after the fact. She was talking with Megan O'Leary, and she said, I didn't want to finish her. I wanted to go all 5 rounds. I wanted to show the world the skills that I have and my ability to dominate. Now, there is nothing more dominant in fighting than shutting somebody out. Nothing. One judge gave Amanda a 10-8 round. Gave her every round, but one of them was a 10-8. Another judge, Douglas Crosby, gave 2 10-8 rounds to Amanda. That is the most dominant thing that you can possibly do. I came from the sport of wrestling. They like to tell you that pinning somebody is the most dominant. They're wrong. They're wrong. That's what we tell the audience. Amongst the bull, you get pinned. I got caught. No problem. Let's do it again. There's something called a technical fall. Technical fall is like the mercy rule in baseball, where if you get so far ahead, the referee, out of mercy to the opponent, will just stop the match. There is nothing reasonable that shows me that this opponent could ever come back, just stop the match, and get him out now. Bad matchup. Both of you go move on with your careers. Okay. Shutting somebody out is the absolute most dominant thing you can do. So when Amanda says I didn't want to finish her, this is what Amanda's talking about. I did not want a fluke. I did not want to catch her the way she caught me. I didn't want to put her down, put her out, and have this fight stopped. I wanted her to know for the duration of the match, there is no situation or scenario that you can beat me, so that you never want to fight me again. That is the message that Amanda was giving to Megan Olivi after the fight. I respect it and I understood it. Not to mention it's what I just saw. I just saw that happen. Either way, that is a more difficult scenario than Julianna knew she was getting into. So now they're even. I mean, they really are in that regard. Amanda was due a rematch because she found something out. She was caught off guard. That's what the fluke was. The fluke wasn't the choke or the hold. It was none of those things. Whoa. This is more serious than I thought it was. Okay, well, that just happened to Julianna. Can you rematch them? 1-1. History says not only can you have to. I get that. But when you have the most dominant thing that could happen, which is 25 minutes of domination, one judge even gives it 10-8, another judge gives it 2 10-8s, and nobody disagrees, including Julie. Nobody disagrees. How do you get to the rematch? I'm open to it. I'm just asking, how do you get there? Is it best to do, let's say we're going to rematch, guys. Let's just say we're going to rematch, okay? Do we do it at 135 pounds? Or do we say that this is settled? Julianna steps forward to 145. Says, I'm now the number one. If Dana White tells you you're not the number one contender at 135, you're not getting the opportunity. And she says, fine, I'm now a 45-pounder. Bring me anybody you think that's in front of me. I'll go ahead and do one right now just to show you I'm the number one 45-pounder. Dana's a little bit stuck, in all fairness. Unless Julianna can't take out whoever Dana says is the rightful number one contender. I mean, do you see where this is a problem? We can't just throw Julianna in there with Amanda. We can't just do this all day long. At some point, Dana says, I've given you 2 opportunities. That's fair, but if she remains the number one contender, and the rankings do matter to some degree, if a fellow 135 can't beat her, even if the fellow 135 is given the opportunity, what would happen if Julianna moved to 145? Put her flag in the ground and said, here I am. Am I the number one contender? What if somebody came back and said, no? And Julianna said, okay, great. Whoever you think is, bring them on. If you can even get them to sign the contract. If you can even find a 45-pounder willing to get in here and fight me, bring them on. I will do one, but then I'm coming after Amanda. You're a little bit stuck. You really are. That's reasonable to me. That would represent and follow the integrity of the sport for me. And I'm watching Colby Covington, who is the clearest number one contender in any division that we have. And that is not because of my relationship with Colby, guys. In all fairness, you're arguing everywhere you go. Who should be the number one contender? Who should be ranked number one? At 170, Colby is clearly, and more clear than any other division, the number one contender. He can't get the title fight. What is the point of being the number one contender if you can't get the title fight? Well, before you think Colby's getting screwed, there's more to the story. He's had that opportunity twice against the same guy, right? It's one of these spots. So I get that Julianna just for giving Amanda her hardest nights or her hardest fights or making it 25 minutes, which is something very few have done, or having stopped her at one point and even got her hand raised, doesn't necessarily qualify her for the same thing at the same weight class. If Julianna was to move up to 45 and Amanda wasn't there, Julianna would walk right into a beautiful position, which is either a title fight or one fight away. And no scenario would it be worse than that if she had to do the one fight and she won to take on whoever the champion is. But it happens to be Amanda. So the rules are very different. They both found themselves in positions that were harder than they thought it was going to be. And not to mention, guys, once you get all of that out of the way, I just laid out the integrity of the sport, competitive architecture that we have, which is something we're fiercely going to adhere to as we make up the rules as we go. It's one of those things. what else do you want her to do? And Shevchenko versus Amanda works. Those girls, right, they think it works because they're both so great. Well, they're close. Shevchenko versus Amanda works because one of them's going to get beat. That's what really is going to bring the audience in. The audience is not there to see the winner. They're guaranteed to see something that they don't see very often. They're going to see one of those girls lose. That's the whole reason that somebody's O must go. 30-0 versus 28-0. Somebody's O must go. It doesn't matter if it's college football, basketball. Like the O must go. As corny as that is, it works every time. But it doesn't work for the reasons that the athletes and the participants and the teams thinks it works, which is one of us is really going to be the best, and we're going to hold this trophy up, and we're going to be the true champion. No, the audience tunes in because one of you is going to get beat. And quite frankly, we acknowledge your greatness. We're sick of seeing you win. If you guarantee me that I get to see a rotten moment for one of you, I will guarantee you my 2 hours of time and my $50. That's the exchange here. Now, that's a tough sell in my opinion. I know that the Bullet is talking about that she wants to do it. The Bullet is something special, and if she really does, there's an opportunity there to move up to 135, and I think that we would likely tune in. But for Amanda to not be interested in beating somebody that she's already beat twice, when she could just float up to 145, see who the only willing participant is. You want to be a number one contender at 145 pounds? It's no different than when Chris Cyborg was running the show. Raise your hand. You're the only one. But getting a 145-pounder to step forward and say, I would like to fight Amanda, is like getting a boxer to step forward and saying, I'll get in there with Jake Paul. For whatever reason, you just won't do it.